Hi, Erin.
Hi.
Thank you for joining me here. I feel really cozy with you because you're also in a sweater.
I'm trying to adjust to the fall.
Yeah, exactly. For our listeners, I this is my first time seeing Erin. I've heard about her. Actually, it's very synchronistic. My sister was at her retreat in Italy, and my sister was WhatsApping me during the retreat saying, "Oh my gosh, this girl!" And I was like, "What's her name?" And she said, Erin. And I was like, I'm listening to a podcast with her on it.
What?
Spoken Wired podcast.
Yeah,
I was like, holy shit, I have to talk to her. I have to meet her. So synchronicity works. So that's how now we're connected.
that's amazing.
Um,
I love that.
yeah. So just because I want to get to know you, like, where did you grow up and what did you like do before this?
Yeah, so I grew up in Seattle, and I've been on the East Coast though now for about 10 years, and in New York for 6 of them. But before human design, I basically was working in the world of startups. I was working in a lot of different startups, and I think that it was so fun and amazing, but I did just like consistently run up against the problem that like the people were amazing, but it felt like they didn't really know how to function or work together. And it felt like there could just be like a deeper level of understanding and self-awareness there. And then simultaneous to that, like I've just been exploring different modalities and systems from like very young. I was going on meditation retreats very young, but I was exploring Reiki and Kundalini and teaching yoga. And I think that when I discovered human design, it just felt like a bridge between the two. It felt like an ability to kind of bring this new modality into the corporate space and into companies in a way that was very accessible and tactical, even though the information itself like comes from the stars. So I think that I think that it felt like there were two separate parts of my life, and human design kind of brought them both together.
Mhm. We have that in common too. We're both Kundalini yoga teachers. And
Yes.
my sister was like, yeah, and they were teaching Kundalini yoga. I was like, I'm gonna love this girl and her. It's your boyfriend, right? Or your
Yeah.
friend? Yeah. So what is human design for people who don't know what it is?
Yeah, so human design basically gives us our energetic DNA. So think of it as your own operating manual. And so it's based on your exact time, date, and place of birth, which is totally wild. But it basically gives us a lot of information about how we're designed to make decisions, communicate our natural strengths, where we get taken off track, and so much more. And just for context, in human design, there are about 2 billion configurations. So everybody's incredibly unique. And human design kind of just gives us the language and the framework to really find our uniqueness.
Hmm. And it was founded by a man. His name is
Ra.
Ra, and he got this download from a vision, right?
Yes, he had a very mystical experience where he was walking home. He was in Ibiza. He'd previously lived in Canada, and he basically heard a voice, and the voice was like, "It's time to work." And so for 8 days and 8 nights, he channeled the system, and then spent the next 20 years building it out. And he's actually no longer alive, but there are institutions around the world, and now lots of practitioners kind of sharing it and spreading the word. But it is, relatively new, like it emerged in 1987. And I will say that like when I first started studying and sharing it, no one had literally any idea what I was talking about. And it's been like in the past, like probably year and a half, that it's just like the awareness of it has blossomed in a totally new way.
Yeah, and so when you are introducing this concept to like organizations and people who are more like scientifically based and analytical, and you say it's based on your pretty much kind of like your astrology, right? Because it's like your time of birth and all that stuff.
It is. It's not actually astrology. It draws from astrology, but it actually takes into account different calculations. But it draws from astrology, the Kabbalah, the I Ching, the chakra system, quantum physics, genetics, biochemistry, all into one master system. But it does the exact time, date, and place of birth does kind of output your unique human design.
Hmm. And that's why I love it so much because it's so unique to you and your time of birth and how really like when you were born, you almost have like a blueprint, right?
Yes, exactly. It's like your imprint.
Yeah. So this is a silly question that I wanted to ask. Do you always ask people their birthplace and time before you speak to them so you know how they're going to speak to you?
I don't. Um, Feels like that might be a little bit controlling. I think that like I love looking it up, and especially if like I'm going to work with somebody. Um, but I think it's for me, it's less about like choosing people based on their human design, but more it's like once I know them and have chemistry with them, it's like understanding their human design so I can like fully leverage them, but also really understand them and communicate in a way that will hopefully work for them. You
Mhm.
know, so it is really helpful. Like I've obviously looked at all my family, know my partners very well, my friends, like, and it just like it's such a beautiful lens through which to understand all those relationships because it just like it just helps me understand them on a deeper level in a way that I never could have really imagined.
Yeah. So there's 4 different types, right?
5 different types, but
5
some
types.
people say 4 because generators, the manifesting generators. So
Yeah.
yes.
Do you mind going through some of them
Of
quickly?
course, yeah. So at the highest level of human design, there are 5 different types, and then it gets a lot more specific from there. So we have manifesting generators, projectors, reflectors, and manifestors.
Mhm.
So manifesting generators, and you're a generator, basically are the people that really have, and is Sarah too, your sister?
I
Yeah,
think
she
so.
was too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most
Manif
people are, right? Generators?
About yes, about 70% are manifesting generators and generators. So about like 30, 33, 35% of each.
Mhm.
So manifesting generators and generators are basically the people that really have the energy and the life force to kind of build and create and bring things to life. And the most important thing in the world is that they're really doing work that is deeply satisfying to them. These are people that are designed to kind of wake up each morning with like a full tank of energy to use their energy in super satisfying ways and then crash and wake up recharged. If they haven't fully used their energy, they might go to bed and just feel like a little bit like restless because they haven't like exhausted their tank or just like depleted because like you might have discovered this in your former career of just like exhausting your energy, but not in a way that actually has felt satisfying, you
Yes.
know? And the idea is that like when you're really lit up by what you're doing, you're really like lifting up the energy of everyone around you. It's like you're such a lighthouse and a powerhouse for the rest of us. And so like for me as a projector, I love working around generators that are buzzy and excited by what they're doing. Key thing to keep in mind for these people is that for both manifesting generators and generators, these people are really designed to kind of allow life to come to them. So rather than chasing after and initiating things, it's basically, you know, just trusting that life will come and it's kind of checking with your gut to see what you have the energy for and what you don't.
Mhm.
And the last piece I'll share is that the difference between the two is that manifesting generators tend to move very quickly. They thrive when they have their energy in a lot of things at once, and their work is to kind of pivot away from something when their energy is no longer there for something.
Mm.
How does that resonate with you, the generator
Oh
piece?
my gosh. I feel like you really see me. Yeah,
Good.
it's exactly me.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
so again, just making sure that you're really like using your energy in relationships and opportunities in ways that feel really good.
Mhm.
Um, Projectors are the people that are really here to kind of be the advisors and the leaders and the guides and the teachers. They're really not here to do all the doing. I'm a projector and we just don't have the same consistent access to energy as generators or manifesting generators do. And so our energy tends to operate in spurts.
Mhm.
And so it's really kind of acknowledging when we have the energy for something and resting when we don't. These people often tend to make really good managers of their company, but also kind of coaches, teachers, facilitators, healers. They really work well with people one-on-one because they can kind of really penetrate into people's energy, and their gift is in really understanding and guiding other people.
Mhm.
Their strategy is all about waiting to be recognized and invited in. So kind of waiting for someone to kind of recognize their unique gift and really inviting them in to share it.
Mhm.
Then we have manifestors, which are the ones that are really here to kind of initiate and get things started. They tend to kind of see the future and see like feel like everyone else is a little bit behind the times. They tend to operate well when they have a lot of independence and autonomy and control. These people really are not here to be kind of managed or told what to do or guided in any way. They're really here to kind of do things on their own terms in their own way.
Mhm.
And their strategy is all about initiating. It's about making the first move and also about informing. So once they made a decision, kind of communicating and letting everyone know what they're going to do before they do it. And then the last type is a reflector, which is about 1% of the population, much more rare. And these are basically these very unique beings that kind of take in everything in their environment and mirror it back to the rest of us. So just by like witnessing reflectors, you really get a sense of the state of things just by how that person is showing up. And
Mhm.
these people are very sensitive to their environment. So the most important thing they can do is be in an environment that feels correct for them.
Mhm.
Um, and also their identity is shifting all the time. So really kind of like allowing their identity to kind of adapt and mutate based on who they are and where they are and who they're with.
Mhm. This is so fascinating because I feel like you can really harness people's strengths in a team setting,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Um, and you said that you can't control, obviously, what people are, but if you're hiring people, isn't it to your benefit to hire like a mix of people?
Totally.
Yeah.
I think that like we need each other. Like we're definitely not designed to do this all on our own. And I think like all the types kind of bring different pieces that another one doesn't have. Like
Mhm.
I've worked with teams of like all manifesting generators in the past. And like there's so much vitality and life force and excitement, but like the energy is kind of like all over the
All over the
place, you
place.
know? Yeah. They don't have people that are like helping with a step-by-step piece or like that are
Yeah.
helping them kind of harness their energy and really like check in about what they actually have the energy for. And so
Mhm.
it's we just need each other, you know? And so I think that like it's not about building teams of the same type, but it's really about kind of like building the right diversity and making sure that like all the bases are covered.
Mm. So there's like a free online quiz also through your site. Um, but it's so, and that's probably why someone like you is so helpful to understand what it says, because it just says like generator for me and then all this other stuff,
Crazy stuff. Yeah.
crazy stuff. What's the easiest way to like synthesize it in a way for us to understand if we
So
don't have the resources to hire somebody like you?
yeah, so I think that like it's a little bit crazy with the information online. So like I don't always recommend that people just like go for it. So when you look up your design and you can go to erinclairejones.com/lookup to look it up. But you want to look at your type, which we went through, the strategy, which we went through, and then your inner authority. Those are the most important pieces. Like everything else is super helpful and is a way to go deeper. But like if you're just gonna do those, like just start there. I think there is information online. There are books. You know, I do sessions, but I also have an offer called Blueprint, which is much more affordable, which is kind of a written PDF on your design. So that can also be helpful. But yeah, I would start with those three pieces to start and not get like totally overwhelmed because I often have sessions where people come, they're like, I read this, and it was so confusing, you know, and it was just too much, you know. And I think that human design isn't designed to be a mental system. Like it's designed to be a system that you integrate and implement in your own life, but you kind of need the right explanation and the right tools so you can actually do it.
So did you go through a course or training?
I did. You know, I studied independently for a teacher with a year and a half, which was amazing. And then I went through some of the more traditional sort of certifications. So both one that was more on the focus of the application of human design to business and how to kind of configure teams based on human design, and also just the traditional one in terms of really kind of understanding in the more traditional language all the aspects of human design and how to kind of share it with people.
Yeah. So one topic that I'm really exploring with my recent guests is this concept of like the all-knowing, trusting, and just kind of releasing fears and doubts about where you want to be in your life. Um, I mean, I'm sure you're still going through it. I'm still going through it. How do you personally trust and listen to that all-knowing voice?
I think that like so much of human design is basically about getting ourselves out of our heads and into our bodies to actually know what's right for us. And so for me, for example, like I make decisions through my feelings and like taking time and sleeping on things. So I think that like I've just learned to trust myself, and not have to like explain or rationalize things. But like when something feels right and I just wake up with a clarity and a sense of knowing, then like just like letting that be my truth. I
Mhm.
think that historically there was a need to control it or make sense of it or rationalize it to the people around me. And I feel like I just don't feel that same pressure because I also know that like that's just not how I'm designed to make decisions. So I think that like that has allowed me to just trust my inner knowing and just the clarity I have around things in a much deeper way.
Mm. So when you started your business, did you have that same knowing that this was all going to work out and people would get what this is?
I do not think that I had the sense that it would work out. I think that I had the sense that it was the right thing for me. I
Mm.
think that like there was an element of, you know, I'd been working for a lot of startups. I was kind of in this like in between exploration phase when I like met my teacher and like former business partner. And it was just like, it was very much like, I was like, this is it, you know, like it can change. And I still believe it can change. Like, I'm not someone that's like, I'm going to be a human design for like the next, you know, many, many years. Like I could totally see that happening, but I also like, I got to just keep paying attention to where I'm being guided and what feels correct. And so I think when I discovered human design, it felt like the thing for me. It felt like it brought everything together and I went all in. There wasn't like, I'm going to put my toe in. I was like, this is it. I'm ready. Let's build.
Mhm.
Um, People weren't ready for it. You know what I mean? And so I think that like, I just like kept studying and practicing and sharing it with the people that were, but also like with some, you know, I think that, you know, being an entrepreneur, there are just waves. Like, I think then I ended up believing that, starting something else, and then kind of like coming back to it. And so I think it just like continue to kind of trust that like if I'm listening to myself, I'll always be guided in the right direction. But I
Yeah.
do think that when I first discovered human design, there was very much a knowing of like, yes, I have to go deep into this.
Yeah. I feel the same way with Kundalini yoga. Like I've been called to teach that in New York because I believe New Yorkers need it so much. But there is this like resistance, people being like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
But just keep showing up until, people start to get it, right?
Yeah, and I think Kundalini is having a similar Kundalini's been around for a lot longer, but I just think that like I've seen it blow up in a big way in the past year and a half. And I think that we just got to kind of recognize ourselves first. I don't think that like I have a lot of um, clients who are now starting to study human design and they're like, I want to do it now. I want to do all the readings. Like, where are the people? And just like this stuff takes time. And
Yeah.
like, I think that like I studied human design for 3 years without like any kind of recognition, and like, but I knew it was the right thing for me. And so like when the recognition and invitation started to come, I was like, I felt so lucky, but I also felt so like grateful that I had trusted it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That I had been like, this is it. I don't know how it's going to take shape or when, but I know it's the right thing for me.
Hmm. So your human design is basically your blueprint for your body, your life.
Yes.
Um, how can you use that knowledge to make decisions and act through life? Because you can't change who you are, can you?
Right. You can't change your human design, but again, like the thing with human design is that like you can express it however you like. Like I might tell you you're a generator, you're like, but I want to initiate and manifest. Like you can do that. The idea is it's often just going to feel a lot better when you kind of operate in alignment with your design. So the aspect of the chart that I was mentioning earlier called the inner authority is basically how you're designed to make decisions, and it's unique for each of us. And so, for example, the one that I shared is that I'm emotional, which means I need a lot more time to feel into things and sleep on things. I'm really not designed to make decisions immediately or in the moment.
Mhm.
Your decision making is all around your sacral, your gut response, which basically means you're designed to make decisions in the moment based on how it feels in your gut. Whether it's like an excited buzz in your stomach, or like an uncomfortable nut, whether your body's opening up or kind of contracting away. So like that's really designed to be your authority.
Mhm.
There are some people that are designed to make decisions based on their intuition, which is like, and you have the intuition in your design. It's just not how you're designed to like make every momentary decision. But
Yeah.
intuition's super quiet. It's like a feeling of resonating with something. It's like a voice that you hear, tingles that you feel. Like Kundalini is obviously such a powerful tool to kind of tune into that. But
Mhm.
it's really these people are designed to just like be quiet enough to hear it and then just being courageous enough to act once they do.
Mhm.
Um, there's some people that are designed to make decisions by verbally processing, by just kind of like listening to what they say and like just seeing what comes out
Mhm.
and surrounding themselves by people that they trust. And there's some people that are designed to make decisions based on their willpower, their ego, like whether or not they really feel like they have the willpower, the fortitude to do something, like making decisions based on like whether or not the decision will really take care of them. And
Mhm.
then the last one I'll share, and I'm not covering them all, is that there are some people, this is just true for reflectors, where they're designed to actually wait a full lunar cycle, like a full 30 days before they make a big decision. They kind of need that amount of time to like sample it and really experience a decision before they commit, which like is always wild to me. Yet
Yeah.
every reflector I talk to seems to totally get it.
That's so funny because my sister Sarah, she needs like people to give her the choices. And
Yes.
then from those choices, she can pick her thing. And I'm very like, if I know what I want, I pick it. It doesn't,
Yes.
like it doesn't take me a long time to make decisions. So when
Yes.
she brought that knowledge to my awareness, I was like, oh my God, that's so true.
Yes, yes.
Uh,
And so it is, yeah, because I think she was emotional. But I think that, yeah, for you, you can decide in the moment. It is helpful sometimes to have things presented to you to just be like, no, yes, no,
yeah.
yes. You know what I mean? To kind of trigger that gut response. But you have that capacity to make decisions like on the go, spontaneously, as soon as you get that full body gut yes. And like, obviously, the challenge with all these is that our mind is definitely going to get in the way,
Yeah.
And so, really kind of like, tuning into that. And for you, for example, like really paying attention to like, are you making a decision because you think you should? And like, are you able to rationalize the decision? Because if you're able to rationalize it, it often isn't the right one,
Right.
versus making a decision based on your gut response and be like, oh my God, I have the energy for this. I'm so excited about it.
Yes. Wow. I really am so grateful that you're putting this into words because I couldn't quite say how I make decisions. It's really
Yes.
based on my gut through
Yes,
my sacral
exactly.
chakra. Yeah.
And I think one thing I'd say is that like in my work and sessions and all over, like it just feels like I'm not telling people stuff they don't know. It's not like I'm introducing this totally new language and you're like, whoa, I've never thought of myself this way. It's like, oh my God, yeah, totally. This is me. I've just like never fully allowed myself to step into it.
Mhm.
And so I think human design just gives us this language where it's like, oh yeah, now I have a language to like talk about the way that I operate.
Yeah, I'm curious to know because when I looked at the diagram, it does show the chakra systems. So how do you use Kundalini yoga and human design? Is it to like amplify yourself or?
I think that the idea with when you look at a human design chart, it's going to look really crazy, but they're basically 9 different energy centers, and so it's the idea is that it's kind of an evolution of the 7 chakras,
Mhm.
and there are 2 new ones, but it's really about each center is either going to be colored in or defined. And what I mean by that, sorry, colored in or open, and basically it shows you the areas where you're getting your energy from and the areas where you're the most open and sensitive to other people's energy. And
Mhm.
so I think that like knowing the areas where I'm the most open and sensitive, like those are the physical body areas where I tend to like be the most vulnerable or like have the most challenges. Um, and so I think in terms of using it with Kundalini, it's just like I think that I'm just aware of that map of my body. You know what I mean? And so I think that if I'm like feeling really off track or I feel like I'm taking in someone else's energy, I'm more aware of that. But I think it's really helpful to kind of know exactly where they're situated in the body and in the energy centers.
Mm. So you live in New York City, right?
Yes.
How do you personally, because New York City has a lot of energy and a lot of people, and it's not as conducive to being spiritual and doing this kind of work. How do you take time to self-care?
Yeah, I think that like, New York is not always an easy place to be. I think that like I have a real sanctuary of a home. And so, um, and I don't live in the city. I live in Brooklyn. So I think that like, and I haven't lived in the city for probably 4 years now. And I think that like having my own space to come home to has been a game changer. I also live 2 blocks away from like a huge park. So I don't feel that far away from nature. But like, so I think like spending a lot of time alone and kind of like disconnecting myself from the energy of the city. But I also like part of being in New York for me means leaving New York,
Mhm.
and so I go upstate very often. I just got back from traveling for 2 months. So
Mhm.
it's pretty frequent that I'll like be on the road and that feels just right to me.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
it's okay.
And then just so yeah, I feel like I learned how to like really leverage New York. Sorry, one more moment. One
Mhm.
second.
Clear your throat chakra.
Yeah, oh my God. I feel like New York is such an amazing, powerful energy, especially when you're building a business. So I feel like I've learned how to really leverage it without getting totally overwhelmed by it.
Mm. I'm staying with my parents upstate.
You're saying that,
Yeah, it's like 30 minutes outside of New York City. I guess you could call it like the suburbs.
yeah,
But I needed to like get away from the city for a little while to like remember who
totally.
I am.
Yes, it's so important. And then you can come back, and for me, the test is always whether if I come back, if I'm still excited. I
Exactly.
think at this moment, I still am. But we'll
Yeah.
see.
So give us your offerings. So you do the one-on-one personal readings,
I do that. And then
which
I have, what do you say? Yeah,
retreats.
retreats. Yeah. And then I have a blueprint, which is basically a 30-page PDF on your unique design. So that's a great place to get started. And then I do a lot of workshops in the city and all over. And then I have a lot of corporate and team offerings as well. So
Mhm.
kind of doing team analysis, kind of sitting with teams and really helping them discover how their design to best function together.
Mhm. What is your like dream, like the kind of impact you want to make with your business?
I think that honestly, I'm just like letting it flow. I think that like I've definitely discovered that there's like so little that I can control. I think in general, like my mission is really to make human design as accessible and practical as possible and to like get to as many people as I can that it would be helpful.
Mhm.
I think that like there's a lot of aspects of human design that can feel a little bit inaccessible or overwhelming, or just like not practical. And so I think my intention is to make it just communicate in a way that people can really hear it. I think that like I definitely am very passionate and excited about like bringing it into companies because I think like so many of my clients are people that are like already exploring, like people like you, people that like are already exploring a lot of like systems that are super self-aware, and like human design is like adding to their toolbox and like really serving them. And like I love serving those people because like that's me too. But I
Yeah.
also think there's a aspect of human design that can actually resonate with people that have never touched any of this stuff. And
Mhm.
that's why I love working with companies is people have like never gone down any of those rabbit holes. And then human design is kind of a gateway into like really understanding themselves and how they operate. And so I think being able to reach those people and communicate in a way that will resonate and land with them is just like so much of why I do this work.
So actually, I took the test when I was in grad school. I got my master's in organizational psychology.
Cool.
And I found out I was a generator. Like they didn't explain
What?
what it meant, but I think what I see the future to be is when companies give like personality tests, like the Myers-Briggs, they also
Yep.
include human design and these more, I don't want to say like spiritual tools, but more based on the person's uniqueness.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And I think that like there's just something human design just like it goes so deep because like the intention of human design is to not only show us the aspects of ourselves that we know, that we like know about who we are, but also all the energetics and all the stuff that's underneath the surface. And
Mhm.
so I just think it gives us access to information we haven't really had access to before. And I think there's also something pretty powerful about like I know for me personally, when I've self-diagnosed, when I've like answered all these questions based on like how I perceive myself, like it often changes, and it like depends on like why I'm answering the questions and where it is. And like, I think that like it doesn't always feel like the most reliable to me. And I think there's something like weirdly relieving about human design of just being like, this is your blueprint. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and it's like, and it combines kind of all the stuff we know about ourselves and also all the stuff that's underneath the surface.
Mhm. What's one thing that you've learned about yourself that you didn't know before?
I think that like knowing that I was a projector and that I like really wasn't here to do all the doing has been really transformative to me. I'm like still building a company and definitely like doing more doing than I plan to do in the future. But I also like really have the energy for it. I'm super excited about it. But I think that just like honoring that, because I think historically, like I had just burned out so easily. I had been like so overzealous, trying to do too much and like making myself wrong for being tired. And I feel like now I just know how my energy works and I just honor it and like
Mhm.
honor that it's different than my boyfriend and my friends and my family and like letting that be okay. I also think that like a thing that's really shifted for me is that like knowing that I'm designed to be invited into things has like
Mhm.
I think that I spent a lot of my life feeling like I needed to initiate and make things happen. And so
Yeah.
just kind of like making my work is to make myself available and visible. And then the people that are, drawn or resonate can like come to me. And I think that has just like led to a much greater flow. And then the last piece I'd share is that, learning that I wasn't designed to make decisions in the moment, but I was really designed to give myself time to really feel into things and kind of get emotionally clear has like also really changed the game because I think that I historically had felt so much pressure to kind of be impulsive and make decisions more quickly.
Mm. It's like giving yourself permission to be who you are.
Exactly. And that there's just relief in it because it's not about like, I need to try all these new tools that feel forward. It's like, oh, I got to just like settle back into who I am and trust that like life is going to flow more easily when I do that.
Yeah. Why is it that most of the population are generators, you think?
I think because like we need them. Like these are the people that really have like we wouldn't have the world without these people. Like these are the people that really have the energy and the life force to bring things to life and to make things happen.
Mhm.
And so I just think that like that we kind of need that as the majority. And the thing is that I'll have people come to me and they're like, I'm a generator, I'm so boring. I'm like, that's just the first piece. Like there's so much more in your chart. Like
Yeah.
everyone is so unique, but like that's just kind of like the very beginning. And so like often when they understand like the more holistic picture, like, okay, got it. Like I understand the whole thing now. But I think that yeah, we need these people. And again, when they're like really lit up by what they're doing, they're really giving energy to all of us.
Hmm. That's so funny that that's what you said because part of my work is to also allow and receive. And that's really hard for me because I'm such a
Yeah.
doer. I'm so like, I want to be doing something.
Well, it's an interesting balance for the generators and manifesting generators because like it's really this like super receptive nature where you're really allowing things to come to you. But as soon as you get that gut response and have the clarity it's the right thing, then you're like a total powerhouse and making it happen and
Yeah.
doing and creating. It's just about kind of being patient and waiting to like be fully kind of lit up and energized before you commit to it.
Yeah. Um, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you wanted to share about your work or about life or anything?
I don't think so. I think that I think human design is like if you're drawn, I think it's such a powerful tool to just like really understand how we can sort of find our flow and like understand our own energy. And
Mhm.
so it's been so profound in my own life. And I just think it's been very exciting to kind of watch it take off in a new way.
Mm. So this whole podcast is about awaken and align to your purpose to ultimately live your dream life. So what's your definition of your dream life, and are you living it?
I think that I am living my dream life right now. I think that like for me, like I'm not great at working for people. I've definitely tried it a lot in the past. And so I think like having the freedom and the autonomy and the control to kind of just like, I was studying human design like before it was like I was like, I need to make money from it. It was like I was just so excited about it. And so like I just like that part of my job is just like studying it and like deepening my knowledge and then sharing it with people like is so fun for me. Um yeah, and I think that like there's so many like being able to travel and I like having invested in a home that I love. And I think that like the dream life for me is just like honestly feeling like free and aligned. And
Mm,
I think that like I guess I hope to continue to prioritize that, like regardless of the situation or what I'm working on, And so like, but I also like I've been so lucky. Like I feel like every step has like guided me to the next one. So
mhm.
I don't feel like I have a version of like a life that I'm aspiring to get to. I feel like I'm like super on track and there's like not anything I'm waiting for. And like my work is to just like keep showing up and see how it emerges. Because I just think whenever I try to control it too specifically or like make it happen, it never tends to work out.
Right. Well, I'm so excited to get my human design read by you.
Yes, I'm so excited
That's what it is.
too.
And I think like this is just like a little like opening up the consciousness for people who've never heard of this. Because when I have spoken about this to people, they're like, what is that? So
Totally.
I'm just hoping that this just gives that, window into the consciousness of who they really are. So thank you for sharing.
Of
Um,
course.
where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Erin Claire Jones is my website and Erin Claire Jones is my Instagram too. And so all the information about my offerings and me, it's all on there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Such a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.